Look into this dark, unforgiving glass eye, the mesh of the microphone. Tell it your deepest thoughts, hopes, fears, and desires. We will take these emotions, turn them, and feed them back to you, for we have goals that your feelings will assist. This is how we rule, from the shadows, playing your emotions like puppet strings. We lead you to destinations that we have prepared, and you willingly oblige, thinking these decisions to be your own. When you do as we wish, we reward you, and when you go against us, we punish you. In a million subtle ways, we influence your supposedly free choice. By this method, we rule over a population convinced that they are the masters of their own destiny. Welcome to the Empire of Lies.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back to the Empire of Lies. I am Yiz the Eunuch, and my co-host here is Newsfist. Tonight, Mr. Newsfist has prepared for you a wonderful presentation, and I have prepared a short presentation to go along with it about ruling from the center. And before we get started into what that possibly could mean and our takes on it and what we predict, I would like to remind you that during the course of this stream, I would deeply appreciate it if you would share your hard-earned resources with us. Chris and I here split the proceeds of this stream series 50-50. So whether you contribute via Entropy, which is what I prefer, Cash App, PayPal, rants on Rumble, Hyperchats on Odyssey, or even tips on Subscribestar if you're a monthly subscriber, which I would deeply support or deeply appreciate your support. Chris and I would split everything that comes in on this stream down the middle. But because we have prepared presentations and only an hour to deliver them, we will be waiting till near the end of the hour to get those and to respond to those. And I'll put up the reminder towards the end of the stream to remind you guys to get your paid messages in. So we have a lot to talk about tonight. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Chris. Chris, I'll let you go ahead and preface what you want to do to get us started tonight.
Sure. So ruling from the center is something that you see many politicians in the West talking about, not quite so much in the US now. Trump sort of put paid to that a little bit, but in the UK, you are still seeing this a lot. And the basic assumption that underlines it is the idea of the ethnically, religiously, ideologically homogenous society, right? In a society where, I really should have a graphic for this, right? But basically, the distribution of sort of ideologies is one sort of big hump in the middle, okay, right? And therefore, right, the way to access the largest number of votes is to appeal right to the middle of that hump. It used to be the case in the US. In fact, if you look at, I think it's Chuck Schumer, was always talking about a couple that he knew called the Baileys, right? Turns out this couple did not, in fact, exist, right? There was just a bunch of like polls, and it was Schumer's way of talking, well, lying, really, about the everyman, right? It seems that everybody else
lie.
Yeah, it seems that everybody else in the political class knew this, but when he was on TV, Schumer would lie about, you know, this fellow white couple, essentially, that he knew called the Baileys, right? So this is one of the reasons why the center ground was a sort of massive battleground. The idea was that if you can seize the center, then you have success in democratic politics. But what happens when the center erodes? When you import a whole bunch of new citizens, and instead of having one hump in the center, you have two humps at the extreme, or maybe even 3 or 4 humps if you sort of like zoom out into like a 3D view, where you have various clusters of groups all competing, and there's much less room in the center for common ground. Well, that changes things considerably, and you wind up in a position where it is much, much easier to piss everybody off than it is to actually please anyone. One of the points about the seizing the center or ruling from the center is that under a democracy, generally speaking, the plan is that nobody gets exactly what they want, but also nobody is so displeased that they would take up arms. This is considerably easier to do in an ethnically and or religiously homogenous society. And again, right, like this homogeneity doesn't have to be extreme. It's just that the differences involved are sort of minor, right? And it's one of the things about homogenous sort of white societies that we may have believed that our differences were huge until we were confronted by immigrant populations whose differences are just incredibly large, right? The difference, for example, between the Catholics and the Protestants, right? They're like, it's huge different. Yeah, but compared to
then come in the Hindus and the Jews and the Muslims, and everybody's like, whoa, we're way more similar than we thought.
Exactly, right? And this very much changes like how things are ruled, and I've just prepared like a little presentation on how that might work out. Oh, hang on a second, I don't have the thing up. Oh God, what? Sorry, I'm a little bit tired today. I don't know why. Okay, right. So,
shall we in Smallin?
Oh, yes, we should in Smallin. Hang on. I have to find the. Oh, what is up with me today? Right, in Smallin.
Activated. Right, here we go.
Okay. Ruling from the center used to be the secret source for winning elections in an ethnically and religiously homogenous society. This held true for many decades, with the inevitable result that many times the solution to any social problem was to try and find the middle ground. However, now with the advent of mass immigration and political polarization caused by woke and COVID, the political landscape, instead of looking like a single hump, is multiple humps representing ethnic and religious blocks, leaving a tiny, hollowed out center. As a result, ruling from the center has become a losing formula, not only due to the polarization of society, but because there are some choices that simply cannot be split down the middle, but are basically binary. Are men women? Should we have mass immigration? There is no middle way in such a situation. We see how Western politicians are trained reflexively to seek the middle in any situation and to try and please everyone a bit, which is classic rule from the center. However, what winds up happening is that no one is pleased. This worked for a while because a fundamental tenet of the democratic process is that no one gets everything that they really want, but no one has to live with anything that would cause them to break into open revolt. This formula has now entirely broken down. Another tenet of democratic rule was supposed to be the, quote, rotation of interests, which is that your bloc may not get in this time, but the next time they will, and your interests will be served. Again, this works best when these interests are not existential, but minor, perhaps mild differences in economic policy or social conditions. But in a highly homogeneous society, these differences are relatively minor, although they can feel major. Since the entire European right has been locked out of politics, this principle also no longer holds, as the right has no expectation that their interests will ever be addressed. Democratic rule is supposed to prevent civil conflict by giving different blocs a chance to share power through rotating rulerships. The banishment of the right from politics, along with mass migration, has broken this social compact. Many people might not be able to articulate these principles in detail, but they know when they have been broken.
Mm-hmm.
They are like children being told to wait for their turn with the toy, only to realize that the parent never had any intention of letting them play with it. Rather, the chosen sibling gets it all the time, and when they complain, they are told that they are a bad person.
May I interject here?
Sorry?
May I interject here soon?
Go for it.
I talk to people that are between 45 and 70 quite regularly here, and the regular bell curve hillbilly folk around here they've been noticing for a long time, because remember, working class poor is basically all Appalachians are out here. And what were they told in the 70s and 80s following the civil rights thing? They were told we're going to be inclusive, we're going to give these people a leg up. And it was all about looking past race and leaving the past behind. And then fast forward 15 or 20 years, and all these people got sucker punched when they weren't looking, because they realized we were lied to. They told us kumbaya. They told us post-racialism. They told us we would all get along. And then they quite literally fired us and replaced us with non-white people. And they started rubbing homosexuals, non-whites, and immigrants in our faces and kicking us and calling us Nazi racists whenever we said we had a problem with it. And regular people know the game is up now. And it's just like you're talking about there. Like, it's almost impossible to not feel horrifically betrayed and stabbed in the back if you're old enough to remember all that we've gone through the last 40 or 50 years. It's messed up what's been done to us, and people know.
Oh yeah, and it's also a massive undermining of democracy, right? Democracy is meant to be there to address the grievances of the public. Like, sure, there's a little bit of stage trickery, right? You can get away with a lot, right? You can sort of finagle, right? But underlying sort of the original conception of democracy is that while you are finagling, you are still representing the grievances of the people. Modern Democrats, modern sort of democratic systems seem to have basically abandoned that just completely.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like, they're not even trying to pretend that they are addressing such grievances. Indeed, the idea of addressing grievances is very much dependent on which group you are a part of. And if you are of a disfavored group, then why would we address your grievances? You're beyond the pale. We have no interest in doing so, which is a big mistake in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But please, I just that really hit home with me with what I've been talking to local people the last couple of years, so I wanted to say something. But go ahead, please continue.
Indeed. When so the question of fairness is never addressed. Indeed, when the child, or the voter in this example, complains about this being unfair, the parent or government simply says that the other child is more worthy because they are a minority, because of historic oppression, or something similar, and calls the child a racist if they disagree. This may shut the child up, but it slowly builds resentment. Indeed, you can see this in the behavior of children, where a parent has to give much more attention to one child, for example, because of sickness. The other child can be mollified by the parent telling them that they should have sympathy, but pushed too far, this resentment will boil over. I do not wish to cast the electorate as children, even though I am sure this is what the elites think, but more that they are powerless like children, having minimal effect on policy apart from elections. The child learns quickly that the way to get attention is through tantrums, and this is what the electorate has also learned in regards to the government. Only mass protesting works. Only by chucking such a mighty tantrum that the parent is forced out of their usual complacency and forced to deal with a problem child are any of their concerns ever addressed. Of course, like a suffering parent dealing with limited time and resources, the government is not willing to actually address any of these complaints in a substantive way, since they have told themselves that the other child deserves all of their attention. This is like a parent divorcing, remarrying someone with another child, and then focusing all their attention on a child that is not even theirs. A particularly galling situation for the child who rightly feels that they should be the primary concern of their biological parent. In this analogy, of course, immigrants are the new child to the family, upon which all attention and resources must be lavished, while the original child is left to fend for themselves, regardless of the depredations that the adopted child inflicts upon it. The differences between interest blocks in Western democratic societies are now extreme. These are not mere differences over what the tax rate should be, but fundamental questions of whether or not we have a country, whether the native inhabitants have any rights, whether there will be any respect and representation given to a large block of people. This is the fundamental root cause of why violent dissent is rising. Politicians at some point decided that the real point of democracy was simply to ignore the wishes of a large block of the unfavored electorate in the assumption that they would just shut up and take it forever. Academics have been charting the rise in political polarization for some time, especially around the time of the first Trump presidency and Brexit. But there does not seem to be any recent research on the topic. I was researching for quite a while on this. This is possible. It is possible that this is because it would show that polarization has now reached such alarming levels that it poses a fundamental risk to government, or possibly because the political class has simply decided to ignore voices on the right, since they do not agree with their worldview, in the hope that they will eventually just get over it and realize the many benefits of immigration. This does not seem to be happening. Indeed, quite the opposite. Part of the reason behind this dynamic is the systemic locking out of politics of anyone from the genuine right wing. We have seen this clearly in the UK with Reform, which, absent a major upset, will be the next government of the United Kingdom. Reform have worked with Hope Not Hate to vet their members and have recently announced that they will be psychologically testing any new members in order to avoid anyone right wing accidentally joining. This has the effect of making the political class significantly more left-wing than the people they represent, as this paper elucidates. Here's a summary here. Populists are often defined as those who claim they will fill, quote, political representation gaps, differences between the policy making by established parties and the, quote, popular will. Research has largely neglected to what extent this claim is correct. I study descriptively whether representation gaps exist and their relationship with populism. To this end, I analyze the responses of citizens and parliamentarians from 27 European countries to identical survey policy questions, which I compile and verify to be indicative of voting in referendums. However, I find that policymaking represents the economic attitudes of citizens well. However, I document that the average parliamentarian is about one standard deviation more culturally liberal than the national mean voter. This cultural representation gap is systemic in 4 ways. 1, it arises on nearly all cultural issues. 2, in nearly all countries. 3, nearly all established parties are more culturally liberal than the national mean voter. And 4, all major demographic groups tend to be more conservative than their parliamentarians. Moreover, I find that demographic differences between voters and parliamentarians, or lack of political knowledge, cannot fully account for representation gaps. Finally, I show that right-wing populists fill this cultural representation gap. And
well, it makes sense with all the stuff that we know already. Like,
yeah.
That's why in dissident circles we talk about Cthulhu always swims left. It's their left and right doesn't matter because there's no far white. That kind of thing. Like we all know what the game is, and the game is rigged by these, whether they're anti-white or not, these internationalist global technocrat type people. Like they push for lack of a better term, everything that is generally associated with big government leftism that really serves these globalist technocrat managers. So that's what they all want, and that's kind of what the system selects for. So.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. This paper says that it's not true of economics, but it is true solely of culture, which I think is a result of globalism, quite frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was trying to say.
You have a political class that experiences multiculturalism as a choice, right? So they choose when they want to go to another country, right? They choose when they want to be around other cultures. Oh, yes, we're going to go to Spain, for a week and have a lovely holiday. Oh, yes, we're going to go to Southeast Asia. They choose when they wish to have contact with other cultures. The lower classes have no such choice, right? The upper classes, they can always choose to go back to their small homogenous society, right? To take a break. Oh, yes, we've been in Southeast Asia for a couple of weeks and, getting a bit tired of it. It's nice to be back in, my nice white homogeneous egg sac. The lower classes have no such choice. There is nowhere to escape to, and they do not have a choice of whether they wish to come into contact with other cultures. And I think this is what creates a lot of friction. It's a different thing entirely if you're choosing to do it. To be fair, democracy does make people very passive. It is a very effective system for control, giving people input every 4 or 5 years and the sense of fake participation. But it only works to mollify the electorate if they believe that their grievances are being addressed. Many of the problems in Western Europe have now gone unaddressed for so long that they have become existential, and existential issues lead to violence, since there is simply not enough time or belief to wait and let the government sort it out, even if anyone believed that the government was not doing the exact opposite of the wishes of their people. Indeed, UK trust in government is some of the lowest in the Western world, with a full 45% of respondents to the British Social Attitudes Survey in 2024 saying that they almost never trust the government to put the needs of the nation above their own political party, a full 22 points higher than before COVID. This is an unsustainable number and is probably even higher now, given the debacles around migrant hotels and after Southport. 58% of respondents also say that they, quote, almost never trust politicians of any party to tell the truth. These numbers, as I said, are unsustainable and a direct result of failing to address the grievances of the population. Needless to say, this is an explosively unstable situation and likely to only get worse as government after government continues to betray their people by promising policies that they have no intention of delivering on or that are blocked by the managerial states. One of the upshots of increased polarization is that it becomes impossible to please everyone, but much easier to piss everyone off, as government is increasingly reduced to an organization that spends all of its time mediating between competing but incompatible interest groups. Now, I just want to point out this graph. Now, this is attitudes of political parties in the United Kingdom. This is from YouGov, which I wouldn't trust. They are a bit sus, but 13th to 14th of July. Now, you will notice that apart from the Green Party, right, who are the Green Communists, and the Liberal Democrats, who are essentially just, they don't really have any strong beliefs. The Liberal Democrats are essentially sort of the party of the sort of like white people still living in the parts of England that have been untouched.
The NIMBY shitlib party.
Yeah, basically, right? Yeah. Every single other party has more people that dislike it than like it. So the top three major parties, Reform, Labour, and Conservative, all have highly negative views, and the number of people that actually support them is very low. This is an indication of what I'm talking about. You wind up in a situation where the electorate hates all of the choices, because in aggregate, there is no way to please the actual electorate because they are all polarized around different political and cultural poles.
Mm-hmm.
Note that the Labour government is now where the Conservative government was before the election, only this has happened much quicker. No doubt to do with Starmer's awful leadership and the Labour Party's awful economic policies, which are basically destroying the country. Before any election, the prospective parties... Sorry, go on.
Bringing in mass numbers of foreigners who rape your kids, that doesn't win over the people either.
Well, at least under the Conservatives, you could say, okay, yes, we are bringing in masses of people, but the economy is sort of good. I don't know, like COVID kind of like messed everything up, obviously.
But let us not forget, in the UK, the mass migration and the horrible rape gang stuff was during the 14-year Tory rule. They were the ones responsible.
Yes, but people didn't really know about it until afterwards, and they spent a lot of effort and time making sure that people did not know about it. This is another sort of thing that happens with government, where they care more about people knowing about the bad thing than the bad thing itself, right? Because the bad thing might only affect 100,000 people, but if everybody knows about it, then it could affect the voting choices of millions of people. This is one of the sort of perverse incentives around democracy. Before any election, the prospective parties lie. And now it is common to have different election campaigns for different ethnic areas, often in different languages, where they promise totally different things to different groups of people. For example, when Labour was trying to get elected, it sent flyers in Arabic to Muslim areas saying that it would support Gaza. This was, of course, a lie, just as every electoral promise is a lie, because the primary goal of government becomes mediating between different ethnic power blocks, and thus to get elected, you must get as many of those ethnic and cultural power blocks on your side as possible to defeat all of the other ethnic and cultural power blocks. It is no wonder that under such a paralyzing system, governments prefer to focus on foreign policy, where they can actually do something, no matter how stupid, rather than focus on their own country, where it is impossible to rule in any meaningful way. Add to this the reflexive oikophobia and anti-whiteness that defines so much of European leadership, which leads them to aid the very people trying to replace them. To give you an example of what I mean here.
Chris meant anti-whiteism, not anti-whiteness. He just misspoke.
Oh, anti-whiteism. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. I appreciate the effort. I appreciate it.
We now have a situation where UK blacks are nearly 3 times more optimistic than UK whites. This is unsurprising for many reasons. Blacks are not told they are evil, they are not held to the same standard as whites, and since they are a minority, they have access to punitive hate speech laws to punish their opponents. It is widely accepted among black and Muslim populations that they will inherit the UK, and based on demographic trends, they are correct. One very interesting facet to what is going on in the UK is that those people living in the cities, which have become highly diversified, are becoming much more radicalized, while those living in the parts of the country that are still majority white have no idea what all the fuss is about.
Mm-hmm.
Callum Darragh from the Lotus Eaters has documented this extensively, finding people on Twitter expressing such opinions and relentlessly pointing out how they all live in areas that are still over 80% white. Such people, cosseted in their lovely corners of past Britain, are still free to express luxury beliefs, since there is zero cost to them personally, which goes back to a point I made earlier about how it is not words that change people's beliefs, but events. Thus, when Reform talks about ruling from the centre, what they really mean is ruling in the interests of the non-radicalized rural voters for whom things have not yet fundamentally changed. There is a large number of these people in the northeast of England, which has been spared the impact of migration and migrant hotels. Looked at on a map, this difference is remarkably stark. There is an entire section of the country that has had 0 migrant hotels put into it. This could be due to a lack of rail connections, but is probably also due to white elite management. Here we go. You can sort of more zoomed out. As you can see, the dispersion of migrant hotels, there are entire sections, notably Wales, which is the fief of Prince Charles, might have something to do with it, much of the northeast and other places. It's very unevenly distributed. In conclusion, as the centre of politics continues to be hollowed out, the only real recourse for government is more authoritarianism to, quote, keep the peace, which it will spend more and more resources on keeping, since it is not based on sound and solid fundamentals. There is still much more potential room for more authoritarianism using digital public infrastructure, but the more energy the government spends on juggling a multitude of balls as it tries to please incompatible cultural and ethnic blocs, the less time it has to do anything else. And I suspect this will eventually lead to a crisis in UK democracy. Thank you.
Sonny Jim in chat is asking to please link the map that you're using right now and where you obtained it.
If you just search for UK migrant hotels, I think it's UK migrant maps. It comes up. There's like a website that documents where they all are. If Google won't show it to you, try Brave or Yandex. I mean, don't use Google. Any other search engine, it should come up. Let me know if you can't find it. I'll try and dig up the URL for you. Right. Let's see what else have we got. Yeah, no, that's it. That's it. I'm done.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Let's see. Can you actually, you know what? We don't need a picture. It's fine.
Oh no. Let me get that picture up.
Sure.
Of Phocion. Phocion?
Phocion is how
Phocion.
Phocion. Yeah. Like ocean with an F at the beginning. Phocion.
Phocion's 11.
Yeah. Yeah. We can. I chose the artwork for the thumbnail today specifically because of Phocion from ancient Greece, specifically Athens, and I also have a presentation to share tonight. So I figured that I would also do a scripted presentation like I've done in the past because I enjoy it. One of my favorite quotes from Phocion here is, "You may compel me to act against my wishes, but you shall never force me to speak against my judgment." And so just keep that in mind as we read through this, because this is basically what ruling from the center is all about. It used to be, well, things are going to be okay. You can speak your mind, but because of the demos and because of us having to manage everyone, you're not all going to get your way. But you can still speak your mind. Well, when that falls apart, you have to start stacking bodies, which is exactly what happened to Mr. Phocion here. So let's get into it. Let's go ahead and start reading this here. This man Phocion, like many great and influential men of ancient Greece, led a passionate life of conflict and warfare and politics, whose story far exceeds the scope of my small presentation. But I wanted to start with a brief mention of him and why I chose the painting The Death of Phocion for tonight's thumbnail. Phocion was an accomplished warrior and statesman with a history of noble actions, including raising a dead friend's son as his own, which gained him the moniker The Good, which no doubt sounded better in ancient Athens. He stood firmly against the sophistry and bickering of the Athenian political court, chose to speak in short, powerful quips and statements instead of lengthy, waffling speeches like the others did, and eventually gained favor with so many Athenians of all echelons of life in Athens that most considered him to be the leader of Athenian politics or the leader of Athens itself. He spoke boldly. He favored action over debate, and in many ways carried his influence in Athens more like a beloved dictator than an elected politician. I will end this grossly incomplete summary of Phocion with the most important part for tonight, his death. The cowardly snakes in politics, the scheming merchants both within and without Athens' walls, and hostile foreigners from Macedon and other places conspired to discredit, shame, and ultimately sentence to death Phocion. And of course, the death was by drinking hemlock, as was the style at the time. This proves that spiteful mutants, hostile outsiders, and conniving evil cowards in politics are not just problems of today, but go all the way back to at least ancient Greece. Across time, culture, religion, and language, democracy or politics in general has always been a struggle between good and evil, where the bulk of politicians represent a passive, sinister evil of jealous, feminine wrath and a desire for undeserved decadence and power. The phrase conniving court of eunuchs comes to mind, present company excluded, of course. Anything you want to say before I get into the next part, Chris?
No, I'm really enjoying this. He sounds based. I particularly like the the thing about how instead of doing long rambling speeches, he tried
Yeah,
to
and he absolutely
bring short
despised
points.
sophistry and would often shut people up and shame them and insult them and call them fat and shit whenever they would enter into their sophist ramble. He'd be like, "Careful, fatty, you're going to become winded and you can't leave the podiums," things like that. But he's cool. He's worth. Phocion is one of my favorite Athenians to read about. You should read about him sometime.
I will. I'm also not a fan of sophistry. Bloody annoying.
as we've covered on this stream series before.
Indeed.
Tonight, as Newsfist laid out, we see much of the same decrepit behavior in our governments now. The Phocians of our age are subjected to poisonous hemlock of being canceled and erased from society. So powerful are the cowardly technocrats of today that it takes a man like Donald Trump for even the fading vestige of masculine strength and righteousness to have any prominence or voice at all in modern politics. This is not to say that I believe President Trump is a virtuous man or a bastion of morality. I certainly do not think that. But it's what he represents to the malcontent masses that Chris talked about earlier. A voice of dissent to what's being done to us all. So powerful is the people's need for a voice of dissent that liberal, conservative, Christian, atheist, and pagan, homosexual, and heterosexual have all rallied behind Trump. This is why the MAGA movement is quite literally the most diverse and inclusive movement in all politics right now. It represents this ugly, misshapen, angry mass known as the people. The people are a tangled, deracinated swamp of angry, misdirected, ignorant fools who regardless of political or social leaning, all know that something is critically wrong with America. And they all echo the single sentiment. It didn't used to be this way. While I have little faith Donald Trump and his faction will be able to right the many wrongs of the American machine, even if they had the will, which I don't think they do, I believe we are witnessing the end of politics as we have known it. Whether you're 70 or 80 years old listening to this, what we know of politics, democracy TM, is coming to an end. Like Chris and I have mentioned many times, COVID was a major catalyst for breaking the spell of democracy. As the lies were so blatant and the effects so invasive that even the most low information working stiff was forced to notice. The common man in the West notices now. He notices the white erasure of mass migration. He sees the white erasure in advertisements. He no longer sees himself nor his way of life reflected back at him by media, fiction. The drug that he once relied upon to cope with his miserable servile life in this machine has been denied him. He feels the sting of anti-whiteism at work as he is denied promotions or fired to pave way for the ever-spreading plague of diversity. He stares into the face of hypocrisy no matter where he looks, and this makes him a very dangerous kind of angry. It is said that the plebs will not revolt if they are fed and entertained. But I don't think that holds true any longer, Chris. I think we've moved past that. Because in the before time, the commoner was mostly left alone to his meager family and tiny community, which held true up until the modern era. Now the opiate of the masses, whether it be television, video games, or sport ball, no longer provides the anesthetizing effects since anti-white regime propaganda is omnipresent. Furthermore, food. The food in America is a lie, and in many cases quite literally toxic to consume in any noticeable quantity, whether it be energy drinks, frozen pizza, or our infamous fast food. And again, the common man notices, and it makes him angry. It didn't used to be this way. The anger is lethally dangerous to politicians of the American machine. It relies on the common man, or regular white man in this case, to shut up, do as is told, and be a responsible cog in this machine. But what if the cogs don't work? What if the food isn't grown and shipped? What if the trucks and trains can't run? What if the planes aren't organized correctly? What if the civic infrastructure is abandoned by the only ones who truly understand it spiritually, emotionally, paternally to keep it going? This is the real threat born from such anger. But it's not a vocal threat, nor an organized one. It's a threat of entropy, apathy, and decay. I believe Trump has weaponized this anger of the plebs into a political juggernaut. And we see no other like Trump in the Western world at the moment. But I believe we will as time goes on. The growing rage of the abused, scorned, spit upon, cursed white people, paired with the slow collapse from the competency crisis, will force men of wealth and power to do something, anything, to keep society functioning. This is why I have hope, because the righteous anger of white men and our vocal indignation, much like the imposing figure of Phocion, is undeniable to both the ruling class and the ruled. For no matter how much they despise us and the truth, these miscreants cannot deny reality forever. And stronger men who are willing to crack heads and put people in their places like Phocion will step up to these foxes and become lions we need. Because of this, ruling from the center is no longer a viable strategy, as the proverbial center doesn't exist, and it becomes more of a blatant lie the more times it's spoken, and every politician will be forced to pick a side, us or them, the heritage Americans or the foreigners, the whites or the nons. You and I can't be king, but we can be the plebs who organize the cacophonic sea of rage into recognizable syllables for future elites who have the ear to hear us and the eyes to see us. And hopefully they will respond in accordance to our wishes, for they will realize all will be lost without us. While the future may seem chaotic and bleak, we must never lose heart or fall silent, because that guarantees our defeat. Thank you. And that's it.
Well, that was really good. Yes, I like that.
Well,
Yeah, that's a great point about the bread and circuses.
Let's embiggen and talk about it. Let's embiggen.
Yeah, I mean, like, because they really did take away the circuses, right?
Yeah.
They're like, you know, I know you're like a big fan of the Circus Maximus, right? You know, on the fight, the gladiatorial combat and stuff like that, right? But how about instead we make the Circus Maximus like fake and gay, right? So instead of gladiatorial combat, we'll have like, you know, one woman and
well, no,
one,
we have lesbian pillow fights and Jello.
Yeah. No, but not even like hot lesbian, like, you know, like
no, disgusting
like,
real ones.
You know, lesbian pillow fight. Oh, that sounds good. I'd be like, no. You'll have two HR ladies, like,
yeah,
you know, sort of disputating, you know, in the middle of the ring. Or, I mean, like, they really, honestly, I think getting rid of the circuses was a terrible idea, right? And you can see the women being like, oh, I don't like that Circus Maximus. I don't like it. I don't like all the blood. It's far too masculine. You know, we really need to get rid of it. It's like you're undermining the basis of society.
Many times on this stream series, you and I have spoken about how the tools of their control have gone too far, to the point to where they want to literally be inside our minds, organizing, denying our thoughts, and shaping the way we think and feel about things, which you and I know is ludicrous, and you can never do that. It's not possible. All you can do is become so invasive, you strip away every shred of solace, escape, and community that regular working people can have. And when you do that, the backbone of what you have collapses, it breaks. And that's the point that we're getting to. That's why we have such a massive competency crisis. That's why white men and white women don't have functional relationships anymore. There's no reason for men to care and give a shit or be invested in anything. And white men are the reason why Western civilization became a thing and why it worked so well. And now that they're out in the cold being spit on, well, good luck, society. You think an army of Shaniquas and angry white feminists can run this show? No, they can't. That's why everything sucks now.
Yeah. And simultaneously, right, with the sort of development of this sort of new invasive technology, there also emerged this sort of weird, communist moral crusade. You know what I mean, right? We're going to cleanse all of the sins, as defined by the crazy HR lady, right? So we're going to get rid of everything that white men, but just also men in general enjoy, right? Like we're gonna have welcome to country before like football matches, right? We're gonna heavily regulate like what kind of like titties you can be into. Like it's just so it betrays such a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature, which I think again is highly female coded. This idea that we'll just do away with human nature. Or will you now? History suggests you will not do away with human nature, right? And all that you will do by attempting to do away with human nature is just make the worst parts of it reemerge, right? It was already as good as it was going to get, right? You had already smoothed as much of the roughness.
I have a meme for this
of human nature off as you could, right? The 80s and the 90s were like a triumph of social engineering. That's about as good as you can get it when you're talking about shaving off the rough parts of human nature. And now you just make it worse.
Give me just a second.
Oh, uses is meme mining. I see. All right.
All right, here we go. I made this many years ago. Go ahead and put this up on screen. Let's in small and you can put this one up for us.
Did you send it to me on Telegram? Yes.
I did. I made this a lot of years ago when this was still relevant. And
I miss Archer. Archer used to be so damn good.
I made this meme like 6 or 8 years ago when everybody was talking about it in the meme war. And do you want to race war? Because this is how you get to race war. Like every time that I think about our rotten, stupid, anti-white cunts that lead us, just turning the pressure up, boiling the frog quickly, rubbing our faces in it, I think of this meme I made years ago. Like, do you want a mustache man? Do you want jackboots? Do you want dictators? Do you want people burning down banks? This is how you make it happen, is you throttle the white man and tell him he's evil while spitting in his face over and over again until he just can't take it anymore. Like, it drives me crazy.
But not only that, do you want the sort of most extreme excesses of human nature? Because that's how you get them, right? You just, you have denied all the small pleasures, right? Like, one of the things about modern society is that it takes many of these sort of hardcore destructive impulses, right? Like the urge to war, rape, all these kinds of things. And they provide people with a sort of sublimated way where they can safely express these desires. Like sport is an excellent example of that, right? Like soccer is football, whatever, right? Like not just for the people playing, they get a coordinated thing, but for the people watching, they get to be part of it. If you erase this, right, you're just going to like be like, well, what we really need is a war. You fool! Like I'm reminded of Planet of the Apes, right? It was like you blew it up. You did. What the hell were you thinking? Well, this is why you shouldn't give women control of your society, man. Right? It's a really bad idea, right? Like as who was that? Aristophanes pointed out, right? You give women control of a society and suddenly they start getting all these bright ideas like, oh, we could have a new world where like, men will not be men. That's not what you're going to get. That is not what you are you're going to get something much worse.
You'll get effeminate, weak chaos collapse. And then a bunch of strong, nasty men that you don't like will come in and start knocking heads and take over. That's what happens.
And you will have a much more sort of brutal and rough.
And when that happens, the women who led us to that will yearn for the days of what they used to call patriarchy. They will want that back, and it will never come back.
Yep. That's right. Do we have super chats?
We no, because I'm not monetized on YouTube. We do have donations though.
Oh well, you know what I mean. Chats from our beloved audience.
But I'm autistic, so no, I do not have super chats. Yes, very much, Big O's. Big O says, and they'll all be shrieking, how did it come to this? Yes, exactly. Okay, we have nothing on Cash App. We do have something from our good friend Dawn. Dawn with us in chat tonight. Hello, Dawn.
Hey, Dawn.
Like usual, she sends us 2 white hearts, 2 trophies, and says thank you, and sends us $10. Thank you so much, Dawn. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dawn.
It means a lot. Thank you. All right, and that is all over there on that one. And we only have one on Entropy. It's from Ardent Party. Good old Ardent Party.
Ardent Party.
Yes, indeed. He says, Open confirms multiculturalism is only about destabilizing Western kind's homeland. Anyway, check me out later this hour. Check me out later, an hour after Empire of Lies. And yes, go ahead and share your link in the chat, Ardent. You have permission to do so wherever you like.
Yeah, go check out Ardent's stream after this.
Yeah, Ardent's a good soul. I've hung out with him for years. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
All righty. Well, that's it. So
that's it.
Yep, we are done, and we finished. I thought we would have more paid chats, but we don't. So we can go ahead and get out of here a little early tonight. Okay. Guys, I enjoyed the presentation tonight. Like always, the purpose of this stream series is not to
we just got a $50.
You just did an entropy. Oh, we just did an entropy. Okay. Right.
No, we just got a $50 Rumble chat.
Hold on a second.
From Captain Corgi.
Oh, this is why I don't see other entropies. It logged me out again.
I
hope it lets me back in and doesn't do the stale cookie thing again.
No, this is a Rumble rant.
$50. Oh God, no! It's doing the.
A few shekels for you. Thank you very much, Captain Corgi. Much appreciated.
Yeah, give me a second. Just let me get to it. There's Captain Corgi. Yes, thank you very much, Captain Corgi. Thank you for the shekels. I deeply appreciate it, my friend. All right. And I think Simon said something about entropy as well. Yeah, well, it's doing this thing where it says access token at row 1 too long. And when it does this, usually it's like 2 days before I can log back in to check entropy.
Wait, let me see if I can.
Simon, just do me a favor. Type out what you said in entropy in chat, and I'll just read it out loud. Because I don't know what the problem is with entropy doing this bad request token timeout shit. It only started this like a month ago, but it's been doing it to me regularly, and I don't know why. Which is very disheartening because I love entropy as a service. I don't know why it's having this new problem.
It's doing weird stuff for me as well.
Yeah, right. Like I don't know.
It says you've got no stream.
Yeah, I know. It killed it on my end because it says my login token is expired, but column 1 is too long to refresh. Whatever the hell that means, I don't know.
Oh well.
Good news. Okay. I cleared my cache and came back in, and now it seems to let me back in. Ooh. But it's not letting me stream again, but I can check my account so I can see what was said. Okay. Very good. All right. We have $5 from Araking Green Moon on Entropy. Good show as always, says Araking. Well, thank you, sir. I deeply appreciate it. Simon JJ sends us $20. Thank you very much, Simon. Simon says, incredible stream. You both stand out as heroes for the cause. Oh, well, that's sweet of you. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that.
Aw.
And I'm sorry about the entropy problem, guys. I do my best with the tools I have. I really do. All right. And we'll check PayPal and Cash App one last time just to make sure we're not missing anything. I don't think we are because I have no notifications on the phone. Yep. Okay.
And thanks again to Captain Corgi. $50, man. That's like amazing.
Yeah, that's a big one. Thank you, Captain Corgi. Yeah, much appreciated. Thank you.
Totally came in when we were being all confused.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, mate. That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
He says he loves the show. Aww.
Good. I'm glad, Captain Corgi. I've seen your name about here and there. I'm glad that you got to catch us live tonight. That's cool. And as always, thank you for the dollars. I really do appreciate that because I don't make any money besides this, and every little bit really does help me. Thank you. So that is it. We have come to the end of the stream, and that means that we can bid our lovely fans adieu. Chris, will you be back Monday?
Yes, I will be back Monday for Happening TV, and I don't know, maybe Discord and Dragons. I'll see. I've got a lot on my plate at the moment. Sure. And tomorrow night at 11 p.m. London time, I'll be on Artie and Fist on Rhetorically Defective's channel. I think we're covering Netanyahu's interview with Trigonometry. I believe so. Come
Oh
along
man,
if
that sounds like cancer. You couldn't pay me.
Oh, mate, it's so cancerous to watch, you know. But you know, it should be fun, right? Like, you know. So come
have
on.
a blessed weekend, everyone. Remember not to give up, because that's the one thing that we can't give them, is us giving up. So live the best life that you can for yourself and your people. Build the best community you can, and make the wisest decisions you can for the future. And stand tall, stand proud in the face of evil. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you Monday.
Good night, everyone.